Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 133rd verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel Thien Thai in the USA. Speak not harshly to anyone. Those thus addressed will retort. Painful, indeed, is vindictive speech. Blows in exchange may bruise you. This verse arose from a true event when the Blessed One observed a disciple who, in a moment of anger, raised harsh words toward another. The recipient, responding in kind, created a cycle of pain that rippled through the community. The Buddha then spoke to reveal the harm inherent in vindictive speech and to guide beings toward mindfulness of their words. He taught that speech can wound as deeply as the rod. Words spoken in anger may provoke retaliation, sow discord, and leave marks unseen but deeply felt. Conversely, gentle speech, mindful and compassionate, prevents suffering, heals relationships, and supports the mind in cultivating clarity. From this observation, the verse emerged, emphasizing the subtle yet powerful impact of language, reminding disciples and all beings that speech is a tool for either liberation or suffering, and that mastery over words is as essential as mastery over action. The Buddha's teaching on speech extends beyond the simple avoidance of insult. It invites reflection on the nature of communication itself. Every word carries intention, and every intention carries weight. When we speak harshly, the mind behind the speech is already engaged in conflict, often unconsciously seeking to defend itself, assert authority, or relieve inner tension through the suffering of others. Such speech never travels alone. It produces consequences in thought, feeling, and action. The one who hears responds not only with words, but often with emotion, carrying forward the chain of irritation or anger. Even when physical blows are not exchanged, the mind becomes bruised, carrying tension, resentment, and fear. The Buddha observed that this chain of cause and effect extends endlessly, reinforcing cycles of hostility, mistrust, and sorrow. In contrast, when speech arises from mindfulness, from awareness of interdependence, from respect for the suffering and joy of others, it interrupts the chain of harm. Words spoken gently do not diminish the speaker. They do not weaken the one who utters them. On the contrary, they cultivate inner strength, calmness, and clarity. The mind that speaks carefully and listens deeply becomes a sanctuary, a place where insight and peace naturally arise. To understand this teaching fully, one must see the subtle mechanics of speech. Words are not neutral. They can inflame, soothe, clarify, or confuse. Harsh speech often carries with it layers of judgment, impatience, or irritation that may have little to do with the immediate situation, but everything to do with unresolved tension within the speaker. The Buddha encouraged reflection on the roots of speech, not merely the appearance of words. Each harsh word contains a seed. The seed may sprout quickly, creating immediate conflict, or it may lie dormant, producing delayed regret and inner turmoil. The one who speaks vindicatively experiences inner disturbance, while the recipient may carry resentment and mistrust. This dual suffering illustrates the fundamental law of karma in the field of speech. Gentle speech, by contrast, sows seeds of calm, clarity, and goodwill. It is a practice of liberation, as it cultivates steadiness and prevents entanglement in the cycles of retribution. The mind that learns this skill begins to see that restraint in speech is not suppression but empowerment. It is not denial but freedom. The Buddha's teaching also emphasizes the profound consequences of words in community. Relationships are built and sustained primarily through communication. Harsh speech erodes trust. Vindictive remarks, even subtle ones, create walls between hearts. Blows in exchange, whether physical or verbal, disrupt harmony and create anxiety. In a society where people speak without awareness, misunderstandings multiply, alliances fracture, and fear spreads. The Buddha, observing such dynamics, revealed that the quality of speech shapes not only personal experience but collective well-being. Each utterance is an opportunity to either nurture peace or propagate tension. A practitioner aware of this truth engages speech mindfully, aware of the present moment, aware of the needs, vulnerabilities, and humanity of others. Such speech is rooted in empathy, and empathy arises naturally when the mind recognizes that all beings wish to be happy and free from pain. The gentle voice calms, clarifies, and supports understanding, creating fertile ground for wisdom and compassion to flourish. The verse also illuminates the practice of self-restraint in the midst of provocation. Life presents moments when we are insulted, challenged, or provoked. The habitual tendency may be to respond quickly, defensively, or aggressively. Yet the Buddha teaches that mastery over speech in such moments is not weakness, but liberation. To refrain from vindictive words is to break the chain of suffering. It is to choose peace over reactivity, understanding over ego, compassion over self-interest. The mind that pauses before speaking cultivates mindfulness, observes arising emotions, and allows insight to guide expression. The potential for harm is reduced, and the opportunity for harmonious resolution increases. The one who practices in this way experiences happiness and freedom, not because the world becomes less challenging, but because the mind no longer creates additional suffering through careless words. This practice is subtle, yet its effect ripples endlessly, touching not only those present but also shaping future interactions. The Buddha's teaching on speech is inseparable from understanding the nature of cause and effect. Every word, like every action, produces consequences that shape experience. Harsh speech leads to tension, retaliation, and suffering. Gentle speech leads to clarity, reconciliation, and peace. Painful speech, even when intended as defense or correction, often returns to the speaker, causing remorse, guilt, or continued disturbance. Words spoken with mindfulness and compassion, however, produce harmony both externally and internally. The mind becomes steady, emotions balanced, and understanding deepened. The Buddha points to this principle not as a rule imposed from outside, but as an observable truth that can be verified in one's own life. When we watch the effect of our speech with honesty, the wisdom inherent in restraint and care becomes evident. Thus, speech transforms from a tool of ego to an instrument of liberation. The Buddha's guidance on mindful speech also encourages deep reflection on the inner causes that give rise to harsh words. Often, speech that wounds others emerges from habitual patterns of mind that are rooted in attachment, pride, and unresolved fear. When we observe these patterns, we begin to understand that the mind itself can be a source of conflict if left unchecked. Words do not arise in isolation. They are born from thought, shaped by emotion, and colored by intention. When irritation arises, even subtly, it can find expression through sharp speech. When the mind clings to self-importance, it can find justification for blame or criticism. When fear dominates, words may act as shields, defending a fragile sense of security. The Buddha teaches that the way to transform harmful speech begins with transforming these inner conditions. Awareness of thoughts and emotions allows the practitioner to intervene before harmful words are uttered. In this way, speech becomes an extension of inner wisdom rather than a reactionary impulse. By cultivating mindfulness, one develops the capacity to observe arising thoughts, the tension in the body, and the tone of the mind. This observation is not judgmental. It is simply a recognition of what is present. From this recognition, the mind chooses a response that is skillful, measured, and grounded in compassion. The process may begin with restraint, but it matures into spontaneous care and clarity. Through continuous practice, the habit of harsh speech is replaced with a natural tendency toward kindness and understanding. This is the transformation that the Buddha points to in this verse. It is not achieved through force, but through consistent awareness and gentle correction of the mind's habitual patterns. Each moment in which one chooses speech wisely strengthens the mind's capacity to maintain balance, harmony, and clarity in the face of provocation. Over time, this mindful approach to communication nurtures relationships, deepens trust, and reduces conflict in both personal and communal life. It becomes a practice of liberation in the ordinary and the extraordinary, demonstrating that speech is not merely an external act, but an integral aspect of ethical and spiritual cultivation. In addition, the Buddha's teaching emphasizes the relational nature of speech. Words do not exist in a vacuum. They create ripples in the consciousness of others. A harsh word may provoke retaliation, resentment, or hurt that lingers long after the moment has passed. The recipient of vindictive speech may carry its weight in the mind, shaping future interactions, influencing perception, and perpetuating cycles of conflict. Even if the speaker does not intend ongoing harm, the effects of the speech continue to manifest. In contrast, words spoken with patience, compassion, and awareness have the opposite effect. They encourage understanding, soothe agitation, and provide space for reconciliation. This relational impact of speech illustrates the Buddha's profound awareness of interdependence. He understood that the welfare of the individual cannot be separated from the welfare of others. When speech is skillful, it nurtures both. When speech is harmful, it diminishes both. The insight here is subtle, yet powerful. It calls for constant vigilance, reflection, and discernment. Practitioners are encouraged to observe not only the immediate effects of their words, but also their longer-term impact on the minds of those around them. By cultivating this awareness, one aligns with the natural law of cause and effect, allowing skillful speech to flourish and reduce suffering. Furthermore, the verse invites reflection on the cultivation of patience and empathy as foundations for mindful speech. Life presents situations where provocation is inevitable. Others may speak harshly to us, challenge our views, or act in ways that disturb our peace. The habitual reaction might be to respond in kind, to defend, attack, or justify oneself. Yet the Buddha encourages a different approach. By recognizing that all beings act from their own causes and conditions, we cultivate empathy for their struggles and limitations. This awareness does not condone harmful behavior, but it provides perspective, reducing the need for reactive speech. Patience arises naturally when we understand that retaliation often escalates harm rather than resolving it. Empathy allows us to perceive the suffering behind aggressive words. These qualities transform the heart, making it less likely to speak vindicatively and more likely to respond with clarity and kindness. In practice, this means pausing before responding, observing the arising emotions within oneself, and allowing wisdom and compassion to guide expression. Such moments, though seemingly small, are crucial. Each instance of restraint strengthens the mind's capacity for equanimity and insight. Each choice of gentle, thoughtful speech reinforces the principle that words can be instruments of peace rather than sources of harm. Over time, the habit of mindful communication becomes internalized, shaping one's entire approach to life and relationships. The Buddha also teaches that mindful speech is inseparable from the cultivation of inner calm and ethical conduct. When the mind is agitated, frustrated, or consumed by desire and attachment, speech tends to follow the same pattern. Words may be sharp, reactive, or judgmental. By cultivating inner peace through meditation, reflection, and adherence to ethical precepts, the mind develops the stability and clarity necessary for skillful speech. Meditation allows practitioners to observe the arising of thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. Ethical conduct provides a framework for understanding the consequences of actions, including speech. Together, these practices create the conditions for language to become a tool for liberation rather than suffering. The Buddha's teaching demonstrates that controlling speech is not a matter of external discipline alone. It is a reflection of the inner state of the practitioner. When the heart is tranquil, words are gentle. When the heart is compassionate, words heal. When the mind is wise, words clarify. This understanding reveals the profound integration of ethics, mindfulness, and wisdom in the path of spiritual cultivation. By nurturing these qualities, practitioners ensure that speech aligns with the Dharma and contributes to the happiness of oneself and others. As this teaching gently comes to its conclusion, we allow the Buddha's words on speech to rest fully within the heart. The practice of mindful speech is not a rule imposed from outside, but a living reflection of awareness, compassion, and wisdom. Each time we refrain from harsh words, each time we pause before responding in anger, each time we cultivate patience and empathy, we create a refuge within ourselves and for those around us. Harsh speech no longer holds power over us because we understand its origins and consequences. Gentle, careful speech becomes natural, not forced, not artificial, but flowing from a mind trained in observation and a heart softened by understanding. This is the happiness that the Buddha points to, a happiness that does not depend on others' loss, a happiness that does not rise and fall with praise or insult, a happiness that is steady, deep, and sustaining. Words become instruments of peace, carrying clarity where confusion once reigned, carrying kindness where tension once festered, carrying understanding where discord once grew. The mind that masters speech also masters itself, releasing the burdens of retaliation, fear, and regret. The Buddha teaches that mindful speech creates ripples far beyond the moment of utterance. One word spoken with care can calm anger, restore trust, and plant seeds of harmony. One harsh word spoken in anger can escalate conflict, perpetuate suffering, and leave marks that linger in the minds of all involved. Awareness of this impact cultivates responsibility without fear. We begin to see that every word matters. Every response shapes the present and the future. And each opportunity to speak is also an opportunity to practice the Dharma. By choosing restraint, clarity, and compassion, we align with the natural law of cause and effect. We protect our own minds from agitation, and we protect others from unnecessary suffering. In this alignment, speech is transformed from a source of conflict into a tool of liberation, supporting the practice of mindfulness, the cultivation of wisdom, and the deepening of compassion. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amitabha. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.